Welcome everybody to our Tuesday night chat. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host from My Self-Reliance. And tonight I'm so excited to have Nathan Maingard here with us from We Are Already Free. Now, before I jump over to Nathan and start with our interview, I do want to share with you some of our special self-reliance announcements. We've got a summit coming up on the 18th to the 29th of July for 10 days, Monday to Friday. Of both of those weeks, we're going to have two speakers a day, one at 12 o'clock and the other at 8 p.m. on all topics of self-reliance. And I'm very excited to announce that Nathan is going to be one of our headliner speakers at that summit. And so you're getting a little preview into Nathan tonight and his skills. If you want to jump on and grab a ticket, you can get a $10 ticket that allows you to access live into the rooms like we do on a Tuesday night, and you get a Q&A at the end of the presentation. There is an option that you can watch a replay for free, but that's only available for 48 hours. But if you want to catch all of the series on demand, you can buy a ticket for $49 and that gets you access to everything. So it is a very unique and special event. Never been done before in Australia. And Nathan is actually the only speaker who is not on Australian shores. So that's a unique spot, Nathan. Very excited.
I'm honored. Thank you.
No, and so just to let everyone know, I'm going to say probably, what was it, early or late, was it 2020, when all the lockdowns were happening, and, it might have been even 2021, I'm not quite sure. I was new to Telegram and picking up all these different channels as you do and joining all the different conversations. And Nathan's poem came across my screen. And I listened to the words of this poem, this beautiful poem, and I've just posted into our Telegram chat. And Nathan described what we were all experiencing. And it touched my soul, and I'm sure it did for many of you who are watching tonight, because he does have a great following in Australia. And I wanted everyone who hasn't heard of Nathan to be introduced to you and to the amazing poetry. I don't know how do you say that word?
Troubadour.
Troubadour. So, Nathan, tell us, when you wrote that poem, what was happening in your world at the time? We'll go back a little bit. I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us about what was happening for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me on, and hello to everyone who's listening and watching. It's an honor to have an opportunity to just sit in presence with you all and just be human together. It's like, what a beautiful gift to receive. So what was happening at the time, basically when it all kicked off, and soon after it was initially, it's just going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And obviously within a short space of time, we all realized, okay, that's actually not the case. And I immediately felt like the answer being given of like, people are getting sick and the only way to make them better is to give them medicine. And if you don't do that, you're a terrible person and you're killing grandma and you're killing everyone. And that's bad. And I was like, none of that seems true to me. I know there are many ways to health, and I believe that everyone should have the option to choose their way to health, and that's a very important, it's a human right. It's bodily sovereignty. And when I would share about I would share articles written by people I really respected, showing that, hey, statistically, you're probably fine. Things like that. Statistically, you're not going to have to worry about this thing, except stuff that seemed very sensible to me. It would create so much polarity, and there would be so many arguments, and people would come and attack as though I was an evil person, or anyone who had disagreed in the comments, or even someone who would maybe be, no, this is dangerous and you do need to do something, someone would attack them in the comments. And I was like, I'm not into polarization. To me is a waste of time. It is part of what the current consciousness is bringing out in us, is this othering, that making oneself better than the other. And so I stopped sharing for a long time. And I was living, my beloved Carly and I had moved back to her farm with our dogs, because we were living in a little home in a suburb when the lockdowns began, and we were like, there's no way we can do this with 4 dogs. We're going to go mad. So we had the option, fortunately, to go to live in a little cottage on the farm. And over time, I just kept feeling this urge of, I want to speak to what's happening right now. But I want to do it in a way that isn't me saying I'm better than anyone, or saying that just because we disagree, that I think I'm better than whoever the other person on the other side is. And so I started writing, and I've been a songwriter and a storyteller for many, many years. And I've loved poetry, but I've never really done much poetry. I've never shared much poetry. And these poems started coming through, these long form poems that were like stories in themselves. And I think that We Are Already Free was maybe the second or the third of those poems. And I shared it just like everything else. And it just went completely bonkers. Like, I didn't even have a Telegram channel when I shared it. And the funny part is that I, obviously not knowing much about how viral stuff works, but I didn't put my name on the video itself. I just shared it as a post, and then it went out, and then it just started going everywhere. But people were downloading and re-uploading, and pretty quickly lost track of who I was. So very few people actually knew who I was, until friends would start tagging me and messaging me and saying, hey, I saw this on this channel, or I saw this in this place. And so that's kind of what happened.
Oops. You got this, Dave. All I need to do is cook fish. Hang on a minute. Sorry, Nathan. There you go.
Oh, that's all good. Yeah, so basically and then I mean, I think David Wolf shared it on his channel, Pete Evans shared it, and then people kept asking, where can we find you that's not on Instagram or not on the usual channels? And that's when I created the We Are Already Free channel, which was also, I mean, like I said, very much from Pete Evans sharing that poem, and then poems I shared afterwards that kind of moved around the world. So the place I was in was really just wanting to speak my truth, and do it in a way that it wasn't really about us versus them, but it was just about, hey, here's my truth. And if you feel it, then beautiful. And if you don't, then that's also fine.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you've been, tell us more, like, before this, then we'll go back a little bit further and tell us, what do you do when you're not doing poetry? When you're not doing...
Well, I've been a professional troubadour for many years. So a songwriter, storyteller, and I have a Patreon page that has been my primary income. But I went through a really intense dark night of the soul where everything kind of fell apart. I just couldn't connect to my music anymore. I couldn't really connect to anything, and spent a long time wishing that I wasn't. And in that process, realized that for me, the music and the songs and the stories I was sharing was actually a part of something bigger. They were just another channel for the message. And the message is, we are already free, and we are beautiful, and we are literally the divine experiencing itself. We are impossible. We are in an infinite universe, and yet in this moment here, every one of us is. I mean, if that isn't astonishing, I don't know what is. And so I realized I wanted to offer something that could support people more in that journey of remembering that we are already free, because our society wants us to forget. And I say our society as it's just a label, but it's really the consciousness that we've all agreed on as a collective that is currently running our reality, the reality we know. That consciousness is one of separation and actually, what's the word I would use, is apathy. It's a forgetfulness of the miracle that existence really is. And so we strive to build up our egos and our identities as much as we accumulate, as much as we can, extract as much as we can, so that we can, I don't know what exactly, but it's a zero-sum end game. There's no winner at the end. Whereas if we remember that we are infinite, that we are the infinite game playing itself, and that we just have this moment, this present moment is the miracle of life, then we can start to live in a way like the beautiful story of thinking 7 generations back and 7 generations forward, that every action we take has an impact on all our relations in all directions of time and space. And then what do we do when we realize that we are already free, that we can take action and that it has impact back and forward? And so the troubadour thing, I was like, I would play a show and have this expanded experience. And then I would see people would go back to their daily lives, and within a few days, they'd be back in the shape that the life expected of them, in a way, because our life has a certain expectation of the identity that we have. And so when someone's changing that, suddenly it's like, well, now what do? I don't know how to relate to my old world. And so having a community and having support, and that's when I started looking through my own need for support and my own need for therapy and care and integration and plant medicine and all these wonderful things. I realized that I wanted to offer that to others through breath work and through coaching and through narrative support as well, which is the songs and stories, is helping people to find better stories than the ones that our society tells. So that's been the shift that I've been navigating the last few years.
Yeah, beautiful. And I've actually done some work with you and through some of your programs. Tell everyone more about what you offer within the programs that you're running, the breath work and so forth.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm primarily focused on one-to-one, and I'm still working out a name for it because it's not pure coaching. It's really more that I have the capacity to sit as a mirror and as a witness to the experience that someone is having, and in that space, that whatever you are, whatever your true self is that has always wanted to come out into the light, is welcomed into the light, is welcome to come out. And so that's through breathwork, songs and stories, and coaching, but it's kind of whatever that needs to be. And so I currently have it's actually amazing, a bunch of people have been signing up and getting such beautiful responses. It's amazing that I get to do something I love so much and be of service. And in terms of an offering, I currently have a 5-day morning practice challenge or morning routine, which it's actually currently offline because I had an issue with my server. It's funny how trying to navigate technology while like showing up in this way in the world. It's a fun experience. Anyway, so I have this, because to me, the morning practice is a beautiful saying, how you win the morning to win the day. And it's like that first moment in the morning when I open my eyes, what is the first thought I'm having? What is the first action I take? And I know for me that's been foundational in navigating my life more holistically and from a more empowered perspective. I actually wrote a poem about the morning practice because it's been so impactful for me as a sovereignty practice, as a sovereignty tool. It's like I'm always, our society and the messaging of social media and of the media is constantly do something out there, go and make the world like, you need to fix everything, you need to do better, you need to get out there and change stuff. And I'm like, yeah, well, how is your inner landscape? How's your inner home? How is the home of the self in which you will always live, no matter whether you're in a concentration camp or in the middle of the Garden of Eden? If your inner space dictates how you respond to the external world. And through doing that, through focusing on generating internal sovereignty, we gain a huge amount of power to then have more of a sphere of influence externally. But my belief is, it's like, love your neighbor as you love yourself, as in the, Jesus, like a good Jesus quote for us all. But something in that I think people often forget. It's like, you can't love your neighbor unless you love yourself. Mm-hmm. So love yourself so you can love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, which means like, if you really want to love your neighbor well, you need to love yourself well. And that's the one thing you have total control over, is how do I treat myself? And for me, the morning practice is that. So I'm in the process of relaunching that on a new platform so that I can offer it again and give access. But it's really just helping people to decide, like, what do I want my first few minutes of the day to look like? Is that breath work, meditation, journaling? How do I want to meet the day? And by taking that simple little 5-10 minute action every day and committing to it, watch how the rest of the world starts to change, how your world begins to unfold and blossom.
I love that you mentioned that, because that's the program that I did of yours and loved it, because I absolutely believe in a morning practice, and everyone needs to have one. And sometimes when you haven't had one, it does take a little bit of guidance and having some kind of a system to follow, and yours is really great. Can you do that poem for us, Nathan? You,
Oh, with pleasure. Which poem? The We Are Already Free or the morning practice poem?
oh, go with the morning practice one, since we're talking about
Okay,
that.
cool. Great. I'll look it up. I actually don't know that one off by heart because it's honestly, being a songwriter, I realize like I have so much respect for spoken word poets because it is hard to remember poems compared to songs. Like songs, I have a melody and there's a chorus, and it's a poem is a whole different experience. Anyway, so this is morning practice. Where does my sovereignty exist? Is it out there, or is it in this heart, this mind, this awareness? The more effort I put into bending the outside world to fit my desires, the more my inner garden desertifies, and the unique blooms only I grow begin to die, and my flowing from the spring of life dries. I'm learning to keep it simple and tend my inner garden with early morning starting, including thanking, praying, stretching, breathing, and finally, just being. In this way, the spring flows clear and sweet, so thirsty throats can gather and meet and quench their thirst for love at last. To change the world, I nourish my heart, and my morning practice is where I start.
Isn't that beautiful? Love that. Love that. You have a beautiful way with words, and just that, and the feeling that it leaves you is immense.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
very inspired by the Sufi poets and the way that they talk about love and the divine, and it's been a big inspiration poetically for me.
Yeah. And so I want to go back to you mentioned about sometimes, we all go through those dark spaces, and how do you find your your inner heart, and sometimes we stretch for that and we lose ourselves. Tell us about, and then I know the morning practice really grounds us. What are some other ways that you find that, and that you would coach people on how to really get back to those good vibes again, and really finding yourself?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I think for each of us, it's about finding our way to what works for us as individuals. I do feel like there are some foundational things that have been helpful for me and that I enjoy sharing with people. One of them is something called I language, or is conscious communication. So what that might look like is, one of the aspects is I language. So I'll give you an example. And the only warning I have about this is, if you do practice this, if you choose to practice this, and it is something I would suggest practicing, like learning with other people who are also learning it generally. But as an example, so once you know it and you see it, once I knew it and I saw it, I can't unsee it, and you can't unsee it. So here's what it is. It's basically that when someone is speaking about, and I'm generalizing intentionally here, although I don't usually, but in this case, I'm generalizing, is that most people in our world right now, when they are speaking about something that is kind of lighthearted and easy, then everything's fine. But when it becomes about something that potentially has an emotional trigger, they will switch into generalized language. And I'm going to give you an example. So for example, say that I come to you and I want to tell you a story. And I say, I was walking in the park the other day and it was a really beautiful day. I was having a really nice time. I was enjoying myself. And then when you see someone and you say hello, but they don't recognize you at first, and you feel like, oh my God, they actually don't care about you. And then you feel like, actually, you feel a bit bad about yourself. You know how that feels. So that's what I've just done there. And then I'll give you the example of how I would turn that into I language, because what I've done is I've spoke about myself when it was all about walking in the park and sunshine. But when it got to, I saw someone and they didn't recognize me, I go, when you and you and you, and I turn it into a generalization. So I'll give you an example of what that might look like if I was using I language, or conscious communication would be. So hi, I was walking in the park the other day and it was a beautiful day. I was really enjoying myself. And then I saw a friend I really cared about and I waved to them. And they didn't recognize me at first. And I felt really upset about that. That was really sad for me, because I thought maybe they didn't care about me as much as I thought they did. So I was sad. And so I've stayed using the word I throughout that story instead of switching to you. So again, that's just a brief introduction, but that is a primary tool in claiming one's reality, because once I claim my reality, I have the opportunity to shift how I talk about it and how I perceive it. I don't get to change the outside world. I do get to change how I respond to it, and I get to own my part in it. So that's one of the things. The other one for me is plant medicine. Sacred mushrooms, ayahuasca, various other plant medicines I don't think I would still be here without those medicines. I think they are an intrinsic part to remembering what the human experience is actually all about. And they certainly helped me to let go of the weight that I was carrying around about my life and who I was and the identity that I was so attached to. So I think that could also include similar, like breath work is powerful for doing a similar thing. If you're doing, depending on the type of breath work you're doing, you can do ones that take you into a transformative, expansive state. Those are some of the main ones that I highly recommend. In terms of what I coach people in, it's really, another one is narrative. I mean, I'm not sure if people realize this, but the word universe has a very beautiful secret hidden in plain sight, which is universe means one story, universe, one story. And when I look at what that story might be, that story is the hero's journey. It is the journey of a being going on an adventure and learning and being challenged and growing and then gaining treasure to serve their community with. So what stories we tell ourselves, we as humans are story-based animals. We live and thrive or don't thrive based on our stories, on the stories we tell ourselves. And our society, as I'm sure we're all aware, tells really bad stories around what it means to be human. Really, really bad, which is all the stories are all about. You don't have any power. You are sick. You don't know enough. We, the teachers, the government, the nutritionists, the whatever, we have the power, and you must give your power to us so that we can take care of you. We will keep you safe. Poor little one who doesn't know enough. Whereas the hero's journey is the opposite. The hero's journey is, yes, everyone needs a guide. And I am a guide for many people as a coach, as a facilitator. And I have many people who are guides for me as those who support me on my hero's journey. That everyone needs a guide, but the hero only needs a guide so that they can fully embody their full sovereignty as a hero. And they can just reach that point where they can take responsibility and be the full power being that they came here to be. The guide's not the one, like Gandalf isn't the one who throws the ring in the mountain at the end of Lord of the Rings, you know, like that's Frodo has to do that. Like that's how that works. The hero is the one who has to overcome the big inner challenge, and the guide is just there to facilitate that. And what's happened is that our institutions have positioned themselves as guides, but really they've positioned themselves as the hero, and we're all just the minions, or like just, oh, well, you're just part of the background and you need to give us your attention and energy so we can keep being the heroes. And that's a completely backwards story. So to me, storytelling and telling better stories it's one of the reasons, it's one of the three primary things that I serve with in my coaching, is to help people to tell better stories.
Do you know what? I can throw any question at you and you're just going to give us absolute gems. So let's for anyone who doesn't understand or experience breath work, tell us a little bit about how breath work works, and then maybe you can walk us through a breath work exercise.
Okay. So one of the beautiful things about breath is to remember that the word spirit, the root of the word spirit, means to breathe. And that helps to give us a hint of how powerful breath work is. So we can go for 30, 40 days without food. We can go for a few days without water. We can go for a few minutes without air. And so I actually had a realization some years ago in a sacred journey. I had a vision that everything I think is Nathan is actually just breath with an identity. And that the infinite truth is that the breath is that which is infinite. It rises and it falls, and it rises and it falls. And that's all it wants to do. That's how the universe works. Expansion, contraction, like that's all that it is. And so learning how to connect in with our breath, it's one of the only systems in the body, if not the only, but I stand to be corrected, where it's just happening by itself, but we can then control it when we want to. Whereas my heartbeat is just happening, but if I think, okay, go faster, go slower, it's not going to listen to me. But through the breath, through controlling the breath, we can then control the heartbeat. We can control the nervous system, the digestive system. So on every level of reality, from the most gross, the most physical, the most like, oh, blood and bones and sinew, to the most energetic and spiritual and expanded, the breath gives us access to every layer of our being. And that's a very powerful thing to realize, is that like, what do we do when we know that? It's very interesting that a part of this recent mass psychosis was wear a mask. And to me, I found that because as soon as I put them on, I can feel within a second, I'm like, I'm not breathing properly. I can feel that I'm not getting the right air. I don't need someone to say, oh, well, scientifically, it's all like, I can feel it. I don't need you to tell me anything otherwise. I know what it feels like to breathe well. And so yeah, breath work moves from the most sort of intense and activating, which is your very powerful things like Wim Hof breath work or rebirthing or transformational breath, etc., where you're doing very powerful circular breaths. And those are the ones that'll take people into really psychedelic spaces, like have visions and leave the body and heal massive nervous system trauma and all kinds of wild things. And that's really important to do. And then what is also really important is to move into the gentler, slower breaths, which is what I generally focus on at the moment, which is more subtle. And for many people, even hard to really notice what's the difference. But those slower breaths is where we start to activate the rest and digest, the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic nervous system, which all has to do with healing and recovery and being present and being calm. Because honestly, if people are operating and trying to change the world with a heightened active a system where it's all fight or flight or freeze, where it's all like adrenal, it's not sustainable. There's no way to, that's the kind of energy that's needed for like running away from a tiger. But for sustained long-term transformation, we have to be able to drop into our root, into our vagus nerve, into that system of calm, present awareness that then is observational and can use intuition to make the decisions that are necessary rather than trying to think through it. It's how to be with it and make appropriate responses. Anyway, so I'll share with you just a very simple breath that will be a very gentle one. I'm not going to go into anything too up-regulating right now. And for those who are inexperienced with breath work, you might not really feel much. You might, oh, that just took a few deep breaths. And for others, it might be like, wow, I feel so different. I feel such a change in my state, etc. My invitation is either way, just trust the process and trust that if you can incorporate breath work into your life on a daily basis, it will change your life. It absolutely will. It is a foundational human experience that we all have access to. So to begin, what I'll ask is that wherever you're sitting, if you can sit straight so that your spine is straight, whether you're sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor, and just connect with the feeling of your root, your base being connected to the ground, to the chair, wherever you're seated, and feeling that extension, almost like you've got a little string just gently pulling from the top of your head and kind of lifting up to the heavens. So you are that which sits between heaven and earth. You are the connection between heaven and earth. And if you feel comfortable to, you can close your eyes. Otherwise, just softening your gaze and just turning yourself inward and taking a moment to notice, what are the sensations that I feel now in my body? Notice if you feel tension or if you feel spaciousness. Maybe there's tingling, maybe there's nothing. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to just feel that, to be okay with whatever it is. Note, maybe there's anxiety, maybe there's joy, maybe there's anger, whatever it is, just let it, notice it without judging, just for this moment. Giving yourself permission to just be here now. And then I'd like you to put your hand onto your belly. And we're going to focus on some gentle diaphragm breathing. Most of us are breathing very high in our chests, up into our shoulders, upper chest. And we're going to just see if you can focus. And even if you need, you want to imagine when you're breathing out that your hand is pressing in. So your belly's going in. And when you breathe in, your belly pushes your hand out. See if you can sink in to the belly, to the diaphragm. Sink down, let your shoulders go. Extending each breath, letting yourself slow it all down. And breathing in this way, I'm going to count you through a few of these breaths with pauses, but I'll guide you. And again, see if you can keep your hand on your belly, or at least you focus on the breath moving in and out of your belly very gently. So now just taking a breath in to prepare and letting it go. Taking another breath and release. Now breathing into your belly slowly. 2, 3, 4. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pause. 2. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. 2. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Release your breathing. Allow yourself to return to your natural breath, sitting with eyes closed or gaze softened. Just be curious about what you notice. Any changes? Maybe it's all the same. Maybe it feels worse. Maybe it feels better. It's all good. You are here now, and that is a great gift. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
So good. I think that's the most relaxing in any talks I've done. Nathan, you mentioned mentors. Who has been some of your mentors in your life?
I mean, if I think recently, because it depends, what phase of life I was at. There's lots of mentors at different times. I think Jesus has been a great mentor for me as just someone like the old school. I'm not at all religious. I've always found religion to be very limiting, actually, and that's something I still feel because I remember from a very young age, people would say, oh, well, this is the true way. Only this, follow this book, follow that book. And then but I would listen to them and they'd all be saying the same things. God is love. Love is everything. Forgive everyone. Love yourself. And then they'd be saying, except you go to hell if you don't follow this particular rule set. And I was like, it never made sense to me. So anyway, saying all of that, I do find that the message or the story of Jesus as someone who was basically a Jew, and he stood up and he broke out of the dogma and he said, you are it. You are all that is. I am God. And I believe him saying, I am God was him saying, you are God. I am God. Through God, I exist through me. And so through you. And I'm here to just remind you of that. And he gave his life for it. And I think to me, one of the most profound stories is that when he was on the cross in one of the most torturous and painful ways to die, that he said, forgive them for they know not what they do. To me, like that's next level, that's Jedi level, like understanding of that the only way that people can cause so much pain to one another is because they know not what they do through their ignorance. And so he's in that way a mentor. In terms of right now, I'd say like just thinking of, I suppose because I'm chatting with Australians, but Pete Evans, for sure. I just love that he's been through so much and lost so much of what we all consider success in this culture. And yet he stayed true to his word, aside from without giving in to, okay, cool, I'll toe the line and I won't speak anymore. And I think that's incredibly courageous. Also, fortunately, I have many friends who are, I find, mentors. I have a friend here, Peter, and his wife, Baron, who were ahead of the curve on many levels for years ago, talking about sovereignty and and self-transformation. I mean, they moved out to the area I'm now living in like 7 years ago, and they started growing off grid, like, you know, growing their own food, raising their own animals. Like, they started that because they knew, they were like, this is a bullshit society. Like, it doesn't serve what it means to be human, and we want to live a different way. And they took action on that before it was kind of forced on us. And I think that's one of the great gifts of the coronation, is to invite us to, okay, so you don't like the way things have gone. How do you want it to be? Take action in that direction. Build that world now. The parallel structures of a new way of being, which is actually an old way of being, which is just people in community living in alignment with nature, and with our own nature. So yeah, those are some mentors I've had along the way.
Beautiful. And that's perfectly speaks into self-reliance, right? Living off grid and doing things the way that nature calls us, not how government says it should be done. We would love to hear some of your music. I don't know if you can give us one of your songs. I want to just turn some time over to just whatever you would like to share with us.
Sure, let's do that. Yeah, the one thing I'll ask is just if you mute, because there's a slight echo that I'm hearing. Thank you. So let's see. So there's this very strange paradox of being alive right now, which is where we're imagining a different way while we live in one way. Like, we're saying, no, we believe we can live in a different world, while the world doesn't look anything like we believe it can be. So that's a very challenging space to be in. And yet it's so important that we keep connecting to the stories, the songs that remind us of that, what is possible. There's a beautiful artist, Mark Hansen, I believe his name is. He's a visionary artist, and he has one where there's a painter, and he's pushed his paintbrush across the scene, and where his paintbrush has gone is just like flowers and plants and people and community and everything beautiful. And where his paintbrush has yet to touch is like war and famine and explosion and death and decay. And it's like he's showing how the art, it's not just like a nice thing to have, but it actually helps us to reimagine reality, because the universe is a story. So what story are we telling? And I really think that as we tell those more beautiful stories in ourselves, and we come to really believe them, so the rest changes. And I also think that on a resonance level, that the universe can also mean the one song, universe, one song. And when I think of that, I think of molecules vibrating at different frequencies, which is what reality is. What we call reality is molecular vibration, energetic vibration that creates this, which makes me think of harmony. It must be harmonizing. It must be a song that is beautiful, because otherwise reality would be very unstable. And so if that's true, then it is all music, and we are the song that the universe is singing itself into being from moment to moment. So this is a song that I wrote that came through about that idea, which it's a bit of a risky song because it's got a very high note in it, and I haven't been singing today yet, so my voice is quite cold, but I want to try it for you. I hope I do it justice. All things resonate, from the really small to the extra great, and you are such a melody. The heavens lean down just to sing it to me. It's all music, music, music.
vibrate from the roots of a tree to the tip of the tongue of a snake. Yes, we all create together in love. What a song we can make. It's all music, 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 music. I know your name. Your notes are all interlaced. I feel you contained. Nothing out of place. It's all music, 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 music. Rest now, little one. You're already here, there's no more to be done. In the morning, we'll greet the sun and celebrate what a song we have sung. It's all music, music,
Thank you.
Oh, very good. That was beautiful. Yeah, we are absolutely blessed tonight to have you here, Nathan Maingard from South Africa. Where in South Africa are you?
So I'm from Cape Town, but I now live in an area of South Africa called the Garden Route, which is, yeah, very beautiful. Actually, in a place called the Crags. Just great names. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, it was amazing. And for everyone who are watching, tell us your Telegram channel, where people can find you.
Yeah, so the Telegram channel is just We Are Already Free. And you can find me at just nathanmaingard.com. As I said earlier, everything is in the midst of changing right now, but that website, so I'm still updating my offerings there, but that will take you where you need to go. And I do a lot of online gatherings, generally a few times a week, just to help to remind us all of the stories and the songs that we've got to hold in our hearts so that we can be the change. Because yeah, if we forget, then we become angry and hateful, and then that's what we bring more of into the world. And so that's my offering, is just to keep that flame burning for all of us, so we can do it together. And it is a collaboration and a co-creation. So yeah, nathanmaingard.com, and there is no U in guard.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when you do your gatherings, what time of day do you do them over there, and what would it be here for us?
It varies, but it's usually around 9 in the morning for me. So that would be afternoon, early mid-afternoon for you guys. And then I do another one that's my like afternoon or evening, which is then morning for those in the US, etc. Trying to navigate time zones is always fun.
Yeah, so I think and so for everyone, it's nearly 9 p.m. here now. What is it over there?
It is 1 p.m., just about 1 p.m.
Right. Okay. So
it'd be like 4 or 5 around, but it's also, so basically on my website, there's an invitation to sign up for the online gatherings. And then I send out emails generally about once a week, just letting people know, like, what are we up to this week? And
fantastic. Just because I was on a call with my good friend who's in South Africa, and she's letting me know about all the upheaval that's happening with the electricity and power outages. Are you experiencing that?
Well, we're on 100% solar at our specific spot, so we don't get as impacted, unless sometimes the towers that we connect to for our internet go down, and then yes, then we are totally. And I was just staying with my dad for a week he lives in a nearby town, and yeah, it was intense. I mean, we didn't have power at times for the whole day. So I mean, that's been going on in South Africa for many years now. That's not a recent thing. That's just it's funny, people often, I hear comments on like, oh, the South African government is so corrupt and they take all the money and they use it for themselves. And I'm like, yeah, everyone's doing that. It's just the guys overseas are better at hiding it. Like, it's just, I don't think our government is any more corrupt because we have, in my mind, we have children ruling the world. And I say that we have people who are in adult bodies, but who have never learned to process the emotions that they needed to process as children and the traumas that they experienced. So to me, I haven't yet, someone says, oh, well, Trump's going to save us or whatever the other guy's name is. I really don't follow that stuff much. I find it very boring and it just wastes my time. But I don't think any of those are going to save. I think every person who's currently in power is only in power because they are so out of integrity in themselves. I don't think that, and I don't say that as a judgment on them. I mean, I'm out of integrity in many ways. I'm trying my best to be in integrity, but like it's hard when we're in a society that didn't give us the tools to be in integrity, to be fully responsible, to be fully sovereign, and to acknowledge I am that which I see on the outside. That which I see on the outside is me. Therefore, I am responsible. And how do I behave based on that? So yeah, I think the South African government is actually fantastic in a way because they show us what government is in a very clear way. It's children in adult bodies just taking all they can get for themselves while they can get it. So yeah, that's anyway my perspective. Just
I like that.
I see all the comments. Just thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Gail, Debbie, Beata, Michael, everyone. Thank you for your comments and for your kind words. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is the place to be tonight, for sure. For sure. So do you want to give us one more of your poems? I don't know if we want to do the We Are Already Free or one of the other ones that dear to your heart. What would you like to do?
How much time do we have left? Just so I know what to...
We'll probably... There's a we probably have, within probably 10, 12 minutes.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, let's do We Are Already Free then. I have another one that I was thinking of, but I think We Are Already Free is kind of what...
Well, we'll have to have both of them then, if that's the case.
Okay, We Are Already Free. If you believe that you can vaccinate yourself to health or consume your way to wealth, if you think nature's a fool because you're not a part of the pool of life in all its branches, then I sincerely wish you blessings. And I think you're taking chances. Though I would never dictate how you choose to feel great. I'd only ask the same weight for my perceptions and the actions I choose to take. Imagine if I told you that for the good of all, you could no longer eat a takeout, drink Coca-Cola, or consume fear. Sorry, I mean media, globally owned by 5 corporations, but perhaps let's save that for a future explanation. Imagine if I told you that the science was in, living a life of joy, natural food, and movement was the solution, and that you'd no longer be allowed to spend your days inside your house on your couch wrapped in fear, but you'd have to come outside, sit around the fire, make love, music, laughter, and tears, give your time to serve Earth and your relations for all your years. How would you feel if I dictated your state from my external place? It wouldn't work, would it? Because it's your body, your choice. Now, the same people who say it's okay to poison the well, have you heard of glyphosate? Look it up. It is living hell. Those same people are saying they only care for getting back to normal and your health when they sit on the boards of the corporations selling the medication that increases their wealth. Hidden in their words is a grain of truth. This society seeks to homogenize you, to normalize the way life comes through until you are nothing more than a resource. Consumable, disposable, broken like a wild horse, saddled, bridled with no conceivable recourse, drained, de-brained, your energy a devoured force until it's too late and you say, I wish I'd bucked sooner, for my children are the next course. So here's an invitation. From the heart of love in action, take a breath and let it go. Feel your gut reaction. Step outside with bare feet. Begin recalibration. Be a rebel. Share a hug. Remember you're in heaven. And if all that is not enough, then please, please stop blaming those of us, the millions hidden under all that noise and fluff, we who electrify our lives with truth beyond the lies. Healthy people are not responsible for dis-ease. That is not how nature works. So let us go. We are already free.
Oh, wonderful.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, beautiful. I can hear the applause that echoing through. Oh, I love that. I love that on so many levels. It speaks. So I want to plug, Nathan, you must save it in your diary for the 28th of July. It's a Thursday night at 8 p.m. in Australia, Eastern Standard Time, to come back and hear more of Nathan. And I won't speak that day. I'll just let you take it away, and you can share with us anything you like. So, I mean, it's brilliant. So do you want to finish up on and I don't know if anyone has any questions that they want to put through the chat. You've said so many things tonight that's really touches our heart, and so many different things that just opens up new understanding and new ways of being, and we could all do with a mentor like you. So reach out to Nathan if you want some mentoring and coaching. That's what he does. And one-to-one, imagine having Nathan all to yourself for an hour.
I'd be honored. And please do, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask here, I'd be happy to spend a few minutes on that. And also, like Kelly was saying, just feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to serve. But also happy to finish on a poem. So unless anyone has any questions, I would love to share that with you. Yeah, there's a beautiful experience I had recently where I was blessed to facilitate a breathwork retreat. Co-facilitate. Someone invited me to co-facilitate, and at the end of it, someone said the most beautiful thing to me in the closing circle. She's like, if I could just be 10% more Nathan in my life, like if I could just be 10% more Nathan, that would be amazing. Which was beautiful, because it gave me the opportunity to share with you what I shared with her, what I'm about to share with you, which is that 10%, whatever that is just the part of you that wants to shine a little more, that you see in me. That's all it is. There is nothing in me that you admire or appreciate or think, oh, wow, that's so beautiful. Like, the reason you find the poem beautiful is because the poem is you. And I'm just a messenger. Like, and so just always to remember that. I don't know why it feels important to say that, but I really do. Like, my gift in this world and to this world is just to be a reminder of how beautiful you are. So thank you for the opportunity. And let's finish on a poem, which is kind of all about that. And it's called You Are Medicine. And it's about what I was talking about earlier, the hero's journey. And like, how do we rise up in these kind of times, or in any time in our lives? How do we meet the trials that we are confronted with? So thank you again for this opportunity. Do you ever wonder why so many of us don't go down the mainstream, but much rather flow with the tributary? Well, the air is clean, the grass is green, and the food doesn't need labels to prove where it's been. The people are joy-filled and love living free, embodying the meaning of royal sovereignty. You see, you are a hero, and this is your quest. Live your life fully until you're laid to rest, because death, it is coming. That is 100%. If you need another stat, there's one they can't bend, to the villainous purpose of keeping you surfaced, unaware of the depths hidden in your consciousness. Your very next breath, if you take it with care, could begin your adventure. Do you dare? If you do, then come in. The fire is warm and the people are grinning. We're gathering, circling, sitting, connecting, swaying in concert with melody's onset. Breath in my belly, fire in my heart. Water is my body, earth my mother. We are the children of light and love. Remember, you're one of us. You're not a lame, tame tiger, muzzled, drugged, and leashed into submission. You're a roaring dragon, filled with sunfire and ecstasy in evolution. This revolution, is the solution. Internal combustion, burning the parasites from the depths of our guts until in fiery lines of love across skies, we birth a new world. Look at us fly. Breath in my belly, fire in my heart. Water is my body, earth my mother. I know, I really know it is painful. And you don't know if you'll make it through, but the only way out is in, and the only peace is completing your hero's journey, your personal reckoning. So face your trials, feel through all lies, give another breath, another step, another moment of wild. This world needs you. I need you to gift us the medicine you find in the golden shadows entwined with the deepest parts of your heart divine. You are the medicine. You are the medicine. You are the medicine. Please, please don't accept anything less, anything off the shelf, anything less than glowing, vibrant, magnificent health. That is wealth. That's the juice of life, and it is in you. I promise it is in you and ready to rise. So breathe in, let go, and come home.
Oh, that really encapsulates you to a T. That's yeah, that's beautiful. And the imagery of the lion as well, and that is your logo. That's, you know, that freedom and that just allow you ready to roar. And we are the medicine because our body is the miracle. Just give it what it needs, and it will do the work. Thank you. Food doesn't have to prove where it's been, for sure. It's the right food.
Yeah, exactly. So I see Amanda's asking, and thank you so much. I'm glad you love the poetry, Amanda. Because so many people have been asking me about that, I recently started a blog on my website. So if you go to nathanmaingard.com/blog, or just go to the site and it's in the menu, I can actually put it in here just so it's easy. You don't have to think of the spelling. But at that website, there is my first blog post was that poem I just shared, You Are the Medicine. I wrote the blog post of the story around that, and also the story of the hero's journey, which I think is critical for all of us to know. It's such a powerful framework for how life works, is understanding the hero's journey. So I wrote a blog post, and then I also attached to that, there is a free download. I made an ebook of 5 poems that, like, I think We Are Already Free is one of them, You Are the Medicine, and a few others. So I would eventually love to put an actual poetry book out. It's not something that exists yet, but thank you for asking. So yeah, feel free to go check that out on my blog and get that download for yourself. And I hope that you enjoy, and please let me know, because I really enjoyed making that ebook, and I feel like it's epic. So I'd love to hear any thoughts on it.
Yeah, really great question. Really epic. So Nathan, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think I'm lost for words. I'm sure, you know, I don't know if anyone else has any questions for Nathan, but you've absolutely been a joy, and the music and the poetry, it really fills our soul, but also that breath work. And so I want to encourage everyone to dive in and take advantage of all those offerings. So yeah, we will close up tonight, and thank you everyone for watching the replay. I tell you, the live sessions is always the best place to be, and the magic happens after I end the recording. So do join us again next Tuesday, and it's the last Tuesday before we're actually jumping into our full 10 days of the summit. And the summit will wrap up on the 30th with a free live family fun event. It'll be at Kenthurst in Norwest Sydney, on a beautiful property there. We will show you how to put together your own 72-hour emergency kit. So your grab and go bag, and I don't know if you realise, Nathan, at the moment Sydney is underwater and people are being evacuated and floods happening everywhere. So having a grab and go bag is super important. No matter where you are, you just never know what the reason is. But all our best wishes go out to all those who are concerned about the floods and the rain, and have loved ones who are, you know, moving out and so forth. I do know some people who are evacuating as we speak. So You know, we are a community. Please shout out if you need any help. There's lots of My Self-Reliance community chat groups and that. So, you know, feel free to say I'm in trouble and I need help. We are there for you. So thank you everyone again for watching, and thank you, Nathan, so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
See you all next Tuesday.